Brother, my brother. What's up, Ned?
What's up, Russ?
Did you hate that? Did you hate it?
You know what? I didn't hate it because that was one of the best songs from the movie we're talking about today.
No, it was not.
Oh,
You're
man.
a fool. You're a fool. Dude, was that a hit song in the late 90s that I just didn't know about? Was that a thing?
No, I think they just they might have wrote that song for this movie, which we should tell our travelers what we're talking about here.
All right, y'all. Welcome. We are talking about, this is a special episode, NEA 45, not really on purpose for that nice little number, but we're talking about Pokemon. We're talking about not only Pokemon, but the very first Pokemon movie, the first movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, from 1998, which technically I think in America it came out in 1999.
Yep.
But I'm very excited about this. I love Pokemon, and I won't lie though, I'm getting a little worn out by it, and I think it's my own doing. I was so excited for Legends Arceus to come out, which is a fantastic game, that I played a lot of Pokemon Go, and now I'm just kind of like, I need a moment. And I just watched this movie twice, and I am exhausted.
Yeah, you can't.
Pokemon, and
you can't do too much Pokemon all at once.
Too much Pokemon, but I also love it. So whatever, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's good, man. I feel like whenever you just do too much of one thing, and just shove it all down your throat, you're like, oh, I'm a little Pokemon out. I don't know if I can do a 2-hour podcast and then go and play a game for 3 hours.
Well, this hopefully won't be a 2-hour podcast for y'all. I mean, we'll see. If we just really get into a tear, though, no promises.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of 1999, what was your first introduction into Pokemons?
Oh, dude, that is a great question. I don't know. I really don't know. I think Pokemon just kind of felt like it was always a part of my life. I think my earlier favorite memories, I may have recounted on the podcast at one point, but it's playing Gold and Silver in the back of my buddy's SUV, while our dads were cyclists, and we ended up becoming cyclists. But they would bike up to Chattanooga from Atlanta, 142 miles, and me and him would be in the Caravan. It was just his mom's car, and we would kind of pace behind them or meet them at certain stops and feed them and blah blah blah. But the whole way up, we'd be playing Pokemon, and me and him, really our entire lives have just he stays on top of all the Pokemon games, but it's so fun having Legends Arceus and being able to talk to him about this incredible new video game experience for Pokemon. And it's the first one I've picked up in a while. But I wish I had a good answer. I had blue, I had yellow, but I had never beat either one of those. I think I just got to the 4th or 5th gym, and then Gold and Silver came out because, I'm a 93 kid, as are you. So we were kind of not when Pokemon hit America, were we on it, but we were just behind that a touch.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was cards first for me, that the cards started coming out and started getting them. I do remember directly, I think I got a cavity filled. My mom was proud of me and took me to the store and bought me Pokemon Yellow, and I was so pumped up about it.
That was a good one too. Pokemon Yellow, you actually got to have all the starters and a Pikachu that followed you around. Are you kidding me? What more could a kid that loved the anime want?
I know. Oh, it was that. It was on Game Boy Color, so that was the big thing. It was that it was the first color. Well, they had red and blue in the Game Boy Color, but everything was red and everything was blue in the game. And this one was the one of those three that was multicolored. So I was don't tell me red and blue is better.
Just slightly.
But because yellow, you actually go to different regions and it's purple and it's, all this stuff, and red and blue are just straight up red and blue.
I know. And I had blue because I was I did not want to look at red the entire time, but I'm pretty sure, and it may have been on Gold and Silver, but there was a way when you were starting the game up, you could press certain B down or A down or something like that, and it would change the colors of the blue and red, or it could have been gold and silver, and I'm pretty sure yellow as well. I don't know if you've tried that, but if you still have your game, dude, go in there and see if you can manipulate it. Like one of them is like inverse colors. You can turn it into like blue or red or green. It's like really weird, but kind of a cool little feature that I found out probably years after I had the game, you know.
Yeah.
Was it from a cheat code book that we talked about from the book fair?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. You know,
might have been. But yeah, that was my introduction to it. And then
the cards were huge.
For sure after that, I had cards and we would just trade them, like do very bad trades with our friends. And I think I got screwed out of most of my probably good cards. And then I screwed probably some other people out of their good cards.
I think we all did. I definitely had a Blastoise, like a holographic Blastoise. That's why I know I had two of them. And one I lost, and one I'm pretty positive got stolen from me. But the cards it was great because that's like a completely different, separate experience for me.
Yeah.
Like the cards, eventually they outlawed them from like our elementary school, you know, which makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. They got banned from every school because they were like, people are just doing that in class instead.
But looking at like the original artwork to this day brings back like incredible memories, and just there's something insanely nostalgic about like the first gen of the card game.
Yeah, just in the artwork itself.
The artwork,
that's what kind of I like watching like the rippers on TikTok that rip open packs and stuff like that. It's entertaining to watch and kind of fun. But with like new generation Pokemon, there's a new like set of cards with new artwork every like 4 to 6 months now. I'm like, dude, it kind of just like until they came out with the whatever like anniversary packs, which were like the same artwork, but new
evolutions
cards. Evolutions
is what it
too,
was.
yeah. Where I was like, that's what I would want to like open and start collecting, not like triple holographic, double coated 3-dimensional Charizard Rainbow RX V Max, you know. And I might get a little hate for saying that, but it's not like you're not pulling something that's like, nobody was collecting Charizards back in the day because they were like rare, you know?
Yeah, it was just, I mean, I don't know, man. It was just nostalgic, but it was awesome. If you had a Charizard, I feel like you had the best card. I'm not even like a Charizard guy. Like I said, I always choose the water type Pokemon. Like Blastoise is my go-to, but there is something to be said about if you had the Charizard holographic. I think on the playground, we knew, you knew what was up.
You were
that was the legit one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But no, man, I love the cards and all that stuff. And I can't remember what birthday it was. It must have been when this came out. So what, 99?
We've been like 6 years old, 7 years old.
So turning 7 years old, I'm pretty sure this was the case for this movie, but I didn't look at the release date exactly in America. But a lot of these movies, the Pokemon movies and Star Wars prequels, would come out like on my birthday, or right around it, like early November.
Yeah, it was like the getting ready for Christmas time kind of thing.
Yeah, and so my birthday party would be going to the movie theater with my friends and watching these movies as my parents slept.
Did you go to this one for your birthday?
Oh yeah, I mean maybe not for my birthday. Like I said, I don't know exactly what date it came out. But I know I still have the like holographic Mew card that you get with this movie.
Yeah, I know that was in my book. Yeah.
Yeah, like all the stuff from, I mean, there was a Electabuzz from this movie that I got, and one of the little packs they would hand out, then the Mew, obviously. And then all of the McDonald's, like Happy Toys and all that. I collected all that.
It was
crap.
a Burger King one.
Was it Burger King? Okay.
Yeah, I saw it actually while researching for the podcast today. Like somebody had a table spread of all of the different things. They had like 45 different toys from Burger King.
Wow.
And I was like, I for sure had like the little plush Poliwhirl, and I for sure had like the Nidoking keychain. First of all, it's a great toys in general from a Burger King. Apparently, they did say that
good. Yeah, weird.
The campaign was a flop though, because every every Burger King would like sell out, and they would run out, and people would get furious about it. And that said, it was actually a bad PR move on like Burger King and Pokemon's part.
Man, I mean, everything from like the Pokeballs. Remember, there was a time when you could get
crack
like
them
plastic
open.
Pokeballs from Burger King, and you could also get those like golden chips that had Mewtwo on them, and man,
I know my mom's got
awesome.
a toy box somewhere down in my basement that has like a golden like Charizard
Well,
bar.
that's what you say about your cards, and I have yet to see a single Pokemon card.
I have yet to see one too. I'm digging for it. My mom's unpacking everything from storage and moving back into a new house, and I'm just praying that they pop up somewhere.
I hope so, man. Well, you might be sitting on gold. You just don't even know it. Well, when was the last time you watched this movie?
You know what? I just a lot of this movie. I remember kind of that first fight scene with Donphan and is it Donphan, right? Don
yeah,
Flan.
A Gen 2 Pokemon. Yeah, it's like the only Gen 2 Pokemon in the movie, I think.
Yeah, they apparently, this movie I think had the opener. It was like Pikachu's. It wasn't on the Amazon version. I was bummed out.
Pikachu's Vacation.
And they introduced Meryl and I think Grubel. Snooble.
Maybe, man.
They were flirting out introductions of Gen 2 Pokemon to get people like being like, oh shoot, this is like really cool. Like this is like super meta right now, you know?
Yeah, this is like a year before the second Pokemon Johto, I believe, came out in America. So people were definitely just craving more Pokemon. I mean, the midst of the Pokemon craze, I mean, if you didn't experience it, you would just not even understand how ridiculous Pokemon was in that time frame up until like Generation 3. And I know a lot of people love Gen 3 and got into it on Gen 3, but I feel like there's something special about like Gen 2 era Pokemon when it was on every commercial, every kid on the playground had a Pokemon something or another. It was massive. It really was.
Oh yeah, well that, and then it had the slump until about Pokemon Go came out, and then that's kind of what revamped it back to like a household, non-childish type thing, you know?
Which would have been right when we had graduated college, which is crazy.
Oh yeah, I played a lot of Pokemon Go in Los Angeles, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, I think the last time I watched this was fairly recent, actually. I'm not going to lie. So I've been revamping or kind of there's this old board game. I think I've told you about this in person, Pokemon Master Trainer. And I've been taking that, looking at the rules, developing my own rules for it. And a lot of times while I'll play it, I'll put this movie on or the second movie kind of in the background.
Give you some inspiration.
Yeah, I mean, just to, really go all out with it, it's pretty great. But it's really fun, and I've been working on it, and maybe one day I'll share that with our fans or whatever on Instagram or something if people really care. But man, so yeah, I've watched this fairly recently, and I feel like, actually me and Allie are also kind of slowly watching through all the Pokemon movies. And the next one is the Celebi movie, which will be pretty good. But we watched this one not too long ago, and it holds up in many ways, and I wonder how much it actually holds up in others,
Yeah. It has a 16% on Rotten Tomatoes, which, coming from a movie that is such a big part of people's growing up and such a, instills that nostalgia in people. It's like, man, it even fans, if you're going on and voting on IMDb or whatever, are still not crazy about this movie. And I think I get it. I think I get, the movie starts off so strong. Like, oh my gosh, the opening, like, let's build the antagonist scene that's like, a solid 7-8 minutes long.
The Mewtwo, so Dr. Fuji, because you're talking about like the four kids version, right? That was released in America, not the whole scene where it's like Mewtwo as a child or whatever with a kid who is the daughter of Dr. Fuji. And
I read on that. I didn't watch that version though.
Okay. Yeah, there was a whole thing. I think they had that in Japan, and then they didn't release that in America, thinking it wouldn't be right for American audiences. I actually have a quote from Wikipedia if you want me to read that.
Yeah.
So Shudo, the playwright, says, Mewtwo being torn over his life purpose reflects the film's themes of existentialism. In the Japanese script, the moments Mewtwo realizes that he has to be right in the world he has the right to be in the world just as much as any other living creature, represents the central message of accepting one's existence. These themes were largely toned down by 4 kids as Grossfeld, who was the producer of the American release, felt American audiences needed to see a clearly evil villain rather than a morally ambiguous one.
Yeah.
So they took out a lot. Like, and it's like 8 minutes, you know. And
yeah. Well,
I watched it. I think it's fine. It doesn't really bother me.
It doesn't matter too much, like at the beginning, because you like it. It is they purposefully made him more villainous. I heard that even the Japanese vocal actor for Mewtwo didn't have as much of like a brooding, epic, evil voice, and that they were trying to make it a straight villain in this movie. And you can see why the 4Kids version like really misses the mark when we get to the climax of the movie, because the 4Kids version, all of a sudden it's like Mewtwo's like whole thing about like what's my purpose, and then he still doesn't know his purpose. It like we'll get to that because I have a lot to say about the end of the movie. It's like they developed it and it wrote it really well, and then when it gets to the climax scene and they're working on dubbing it, it's like throwing in 3 different themes all in one. Like, I don't think
the movie doesn't know what it is.
And I was like, it either doesn't know what it is, the 4Kids just threw a bunch of stuff in there, or it's like lost in translation. Like, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, it could be. I think the issue is if you're losing the greater theme of existentialism or toning it down so much and trying to make it more like good guy, bad guy sort of a vibes as 4Kids did, I think you're naturally going to lose kind of the purpose of the film. I mean, you can't. You're changing tones entirely when the initial setup should have been, whatever to lead to the ending. But I honestly, I don't know. I don't know if it takes much away. I don't think it adds or takes away. I don't think it's just not that great of a film in a way. Like, I hate to say that because I love the film and I've watched it so many times, but there's definitely something about it that it's just not like groundbreaking, and it's never it's Pokemon, what do you want?
Pokemon's like first shot ever at a full length film. And we could talk about it. There were so many parts in the film, and it really got me at the scene when they fall off the catamaran and they're in the water. They're in the water for like 2 minutes, and they just keep doing like cutscenes of like Staryu and Squirtle like pulling them along, and then they come up for air, and then they see a big wave, and then they're back in the water, and then they see a big wave, and I'm like, y'all like extended this scene to like keep the movie over an hour.
It's so fast. I mean, you have all this build up to this epic moment, and then I feel like it just kind of climaxes and it's over. And I don't even know. You don't really feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like I get anything out of seeing Ash be petrified and then the tears and all that. Like,
the lesson learned aspect. Like as soon as like the Ash turned to stone or petrified, either, like I've heard both. And then like all the way to the end, you're like, wow, that was like you wrapped up the good Mewtwo turns good part in like 2 minutes, and then he's gone. And he takes all the clone Pokemon with him. I'm like, they could have stayed too. I don't know.
Where are they going?
Yeah, where are they going? Like,
where are they heading off to? And Mewtwo, it's so, I don't know. I guess, well, you had Pikachu the whole time trying to convince, I say the whole time. Again, it's like little moments that you kind of take as this was important for maybe the growth of Mewtwo throughout the film, or what changes his heart, where he's just like, no, we're buddies. Like, I'm not his slave. Like Ash is like my best friend, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's just it's not even worth diving entirely into it, but we're going to.
We're going to. That's the whole point of this.
It's worth watching, but it's just such a silly movie. But I do agree. I think the intro was awesome. I love the introduction to Mewtwo, the explosions of the lab. You had the first battle where it's like Pikachu and that random pirate trainer that shows up out of nowhere.
Yeah,
like,
I was going to have a moment to talk about how weird it was that this creepy pirate man, like, obviously walked a long way and was like, "You're Ash? Like, I've been looking for you." I'm like, that's a little creepy, man. Like,
let's freaking go.
Give the guy some space. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, man. Well, it's funny too. I think the scientist says they created the most powerful Pokemon. Which, when you go through the generations of Pokemon, at this point, we have like a god Pokemon, like Arceus. Arceus is god, supposedly, in this universe, right? So, like, how is Mewtwo the most powerful Pokemon? But for what it's worth, on Pokemon Go, he is in his shadow form, the strongest Pokemon in the game, to my knowledge. So maybe there's something to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to say about, Pokemon that they've discovered. Obviously, they hadn't even discovered Mew at that time. The scientists hadn't discovered Mew, and so they just found DNA.
The data. Yeah, DNA.
So, of course, like Mew was probably, and like Mew is supposed to be, what was it, created by Arceus and then put on Earth, and then all of the Pokemon's DNA stem from Mew to some degree. He was like the first Pokemon, and something about like that. I read up that like all Pokemon share DNA with Mew.
Did not know that.
Yeah, that's that. I could be wrong. That could have just maybe not a reliable source. I'm not sure.
I feel like I've heard something like that as well. I totally have blanked on that.
Yeah,
for some reason, this movie just sticks out as a one-off. Like I really don't feel like. And at the end, he erases everyone's memories anyways, except for his own and the clones. So it's like it doesn't like even matter.
It was one of my questions for you was does anything, because you're a little bit more knowledgeable about like the Pokemon show in that universe, is there anything in this movie that's like OG, that's like it lasts, like we see Mewtwo again, we see Mew again, like is there anything, or does it really stand alone?
Maybe later when Mewtwo comes back in another movie or something like that. But as far as like the anime show that we were watching as kids, I've rewatched some of that fairly recently. And I don't even, to tell you the truth, I couldn't even tell you where in the timeline off the top of my head this fits into that.
Yeah, I know it's got to be
like right before the 7th gym and that I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because Ash does have Charizard, right?
Yeah, and he's already, because he was the first one. He skips Charmeleon in evolution, right?
No, he has Charmeleon.
Okay, so it's well into the show a bit.
It is pretty deep into the show then, I guess, but I couldn't tell you where exactly it is. But I don't know, man. I just thought it was really interesting that they're claiming the idea that they're claiming that Mewtwo is the most powerful Pokemon that ever lived. They created him, he's a clone, and then Dr. Fuji is just all about like, humans did this. Like, it's all because humans are so amazing and so great. And look at this incredible creation. And then he turns around and dies from freaking Mewtwo, his own creation. Like, it just really rubbed me the wrong way how, I don't know, I don't even know how to describe it. Just like the feeling of humans are just so amazing that we did this thing, and like playing God, creating a clone or whatever. Like, there's something about that just rubbed me in a weird kind of way.
Yeah, well, it wasn't that matter of fact that it was like the playing God thing from the humans, because that is kind of a pretty like stereotypical, like, let's build a villain, let's make a scientist, create him in a lab, and he resents his own creation and creator. Like, that's a pretty common theme. I just think it's funny too, that like the whole point of like Mewtwo being angry about what's my purpose as a clone in this world. It'd be one thing if he wanted revenge on people, which he is out there to destroy the world and get revenge on people, but he does so by creating Pokemon clones and enslaving them.
I don't know if he was enslaving them long term so much as just like, hey, we're building up an army and you're a part of it, and it's going to be clones and nothing else.
And like, we're going to take over the world. But
he's creating the superior race of Pokemon clones.
But that's exactly what Giovanni was doing to him, was like, we're going to create a superior Pokemon. It's going to make me more powerful, and we're going to take over the world. Because
also Giovanni was using him to fight preteens in the 8th gym. So like, you see Gary Oak, you see the back of Gary Oak or Gary or whatever his name is, and I'm just like, for some reason, he builds the ultimate Pokemon, and he spends so much time like, all right, here's a bunch of Tauros. Like, let's go get them, and trap them, and let's go battle a bunch of teenagers.
I did have a great, theoretically speaking, for this kind of creation of Mewtwo, that Giovanni obviously funded the experiment. He had a plan to, take Mewtwo. He already had the armor like well fitted. What if Giovanni was just a rich guy at this point. There was no Team Rocket, and that it was years that Giovanni had Mewtwo potentially. And over the course of those years, he became so powerful with Mewtwo that's when he developed Team Rocket as kind of like the foot soldiers. But it was really like him and Mewtwo like running the show. But
dude, maybe so. I would almost guarantee you there is like
a timeline
for that and how it actually happened and everything. But as someone who does not know, has no idea, I kind of love that. That's really cool. Like he builds his power and his wealth via Mewtwo. But at the same time, you do have to keep in mind Giovanni was funding the research, the creation, the scientists.
I was just saying he was already rich and powerful, but there was no Team Rocket at that point. Gotcha. And that Team Rocket became after. Yeah.
Here's my issue with Team Rocket. I know there are other Team Rocket members. We see them throughout the anime. Why are Jesse and James? Is it just such a small crew of people? Why are Jesse and James like even able to talk to Giovanni? Yeah. They are so useless, and they are constantly going after Pikachu or like weak Pokemon or common Pokemon because they've seen them do kind of weirdly, like protagonistic things. They're just the worst.
Yeah, and they're pretty bad at what they do. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe all Team Rocket members are always out on their own little missions. That they're all given missions, and Giovanni's just like, hey, you're not out there to find powerful Pokemon because you're not strong enough to actually capture them. So go after the unique ones, the personality ones.
Maybe
that's why they're buddy with Meowth. Like, I would assume Meowth is a clone of Giovanni's Persian, honestly.
No, he's not.
Come on.
No, Meowth's origin story is I think he was just like on the streets and he was just a normal Meowth, and then he, by watching humans, learned how to talk like a human, and then somewhere along the line met Jesse and James.
Exactly. Well, and that proves my point of like maybe Giovanni has them going after special and unique Pokemon because of their characteristic traits, not necessarily because that's like Pikachu can't be contained in a Pokeball kind of uniqueness,
Yeah, interesting. I don't know, man.
But that's kind of a degrading task for them because they're not entrusted with like capturing powerful Pokemon.
Well, they're terrible. They're terrible. They're so fantastic, but they're terrible. And I just like we see them in this movie dress up like Vikings,
like Vikings,
and
which is there was just so many. They could have been pirates too. I don't know, like something that would have made more sense.
Well, and you have the whole classic like what is it? Ash or someone asked like, I didn't know Vikings were around, or I've never seen one or something, and Ash says something along the lines of, oh yeah, they're all in Minnesota, which is such a weird like real world like United States reference that I just
you got to remember the Vikings were bigger in the 90s too. That they were a big deal football team. So
Team Rocket as Vikings was actually my tops of the episode.
Oh, really? That was the tops of the episode?
Yeah, as I'm looking at my notes, because I kind of really haven't been looking at my notes while we've been talking, but that was my tops.
That line was, they mostly live in Minnesota was on my tops. The other one, in terms of tops, like top lines, was, I'd settle for some of that Pikachu. Like, I love that one.
Man, one of my tops maybe should have just been when Jesse, I'm hating on Jesse and James, but Jesse stopped Dragonite with a pan, like a frying pan, when he was taking off. Also, why wouldn't they go to Dragonite? You never see Dragonites in the anime, and there's one right there just flying by, and they're like, oh, cool, thanks for the invitation that fell out or whatever, there's going to be powerful Pokemon there. Let's go. Let's not get this pseudo legendary that's right here, right in front of us, right now.
In front of them. Well, okay, I got to stop there for my lovely.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Was handbag Dragonite.
Was it?
Yeah, the Dragonite has like a little like purse, and it's just like delivering mail. So that was my lovely. But I did have a question about Dragonite. Okay. So Mewtwo has all the Pokemon on the island that are clones, right? The only other interaction or person that would have been with him was Nurse Joy at that point, right? And she was taken that we know of. So this Dragonite, with a little handbag, I would assume it's not a clone because it obviously has some personality. So why is this Dragonite working for Mewtwo?
And why didn't he come back up later on in the movie?
Yeah. Like, whose Dragonite like is this? Is it Nurse Joy's and it just trusted and went with her? Is it actually a clone? Like, that wasn't answered whatsoever.
No, it didn't have any stripes or any sort of weird pigmentations of its skin or anything.
At the end, all the Pokemon that get cloned, it looked like he improved the process.
For some of the clones.
Yeah,
after,
and remember
like,
he said
3 or whatever.
He took the DNA from like a Bulbasaur, a Squirtle, and a Charmander and cloned them into their evolved forms. So I think that's probably why they have like the weird stripes. It's kind of like he really altered the genes to get them into their evolved forms, you know?
I love the way they look with the stripes.
Yeah. Oh, dude, red stripe Charizard. I want a card. I want a Pokemon card of like
it is
clone
so
Charizard.
Cool.
You know,
there's a moment I think a couple years back in Pokemon Go where there was like an event to get those Pokemon, and I missed it. And every now and then I'll come up against one when I'm battling, and I always just get so jealous. I'm like,
that's so cool. That's such a cool one to have. Though.
There's also the Metal Mewtwo or whatever they call it. I think they called it Metal Mewtwo, and the play, which I also went to as a kid for whatever reason. Like I'm just a super fan, so I went and saw the live action play of Metal Mewtwo or whatever it was called. And they have that in Pokemon Go, and that's another one that I'm like, man, I really missed out. If anyone's got trainer codes and they want to DM us your trainer code,
get me some of these clone Pokemons.
Yeah, trade me your clone Pokemon. That would be insane. I would love that.
Oh yeah. Well, let's see. We've gotten kind of past that intro scene, and now we kind of get to where they're in the ferry station and the storms are brewing that Mewtwo's cooking up. I had just a major qualm with the dynamic between Officer Jenny and the harbor master.
Miranda. Yeah.
Miranda. Like, first of all, Officer Jenny's voice is god awful.
Oh, you think
she's
so?
Like, you don't have to like, you don't even know.
Dude, I love that we're not even talking about Brock. We're just passing over how ridiculous he is.
Oh, see that? I think that one didn't just catch me. It didn't catch me by surprise because as I was like, that's just good old Brock, just being a ladies' man.
He sees the hologram. Sorry, I was away from my mic. He sees the hologram, and he's just like, she's really small, but really pretty.
But really pretty.
And then he sees her on the wall in the harbor or whatever, and he's just like, Nurse Joy, she looks familiar or something, Like,
yeah.
They just always forget who Nurse Joy is, or that Nurse Joy has 100,000 cousins and sisters and whatever that all do the exact same thing. And this movie, they really played on that. They had a lot of jokes that kind of like were shout outs from the anime, which I love, and also feel like made the movie just that much more like ridiculous.
Yeah, the whole Jesse and James scene when they're like, "Who's that Pokemon? Who's that Pokemon?"
Did you catch that they did it wrong the first time?
Yeah, no, dude. We can talk about all the errors in this movie for a minute if you want. Because
let's. I want to talk. Oh yeah, let's just do it. We're on it. Let's go.
Yeah,
this is the special. This is all over the place.
It's all over the place. There's so much to talk about that I was like, if we divert too much, we can't get back to that point. But yeah, they call Scyther Alakazam.
They fooled me too. I was convinced. I was like, oh yeah, that's not Alakazam. Like,
yeah,
it almost got me. I
think literally all those mistakes were made just because of the 4Kids like dub version, that they were just doing it way too quickly. So that was one. So. They Meowth calls Sandslash a Sandshrew. The bird is definitely not a Pidgeotto. It's definitely a Pidgeot. Yeah. Like,
well, can't you tell from its scream that it does 100 times in this freaking movie? Give me your best Pidgeot scream. Do you got one?
Oh, I'm gonna cap out on my mic.
I think it's just more like, instead of like Pidgeot, it's just a jot. It's like, it is rough, dude.
Oh man, there was one more too that they made a pretty bad mistake on. Oh, I can't remember it.
I can't remember. We might come to it later on.
Yeah, there's like a scene where Rapidash doesn't have flames, and it just looks like a white unicorn too.
Oh, interesting.
It's just a lot of funny little things like that.
You could say it was a mistake, though, where going back to the harbor, where we actually started when they jumped in the water and they're like, oh, there's no way our Pokemon are strong enough to like make it through the storm. And then Squirtle and Staryu put the team on their back and bring them.
But I don't think I think that they were closer to the island than we expected.
So maybe they couldn't do the entire thing.
Yeah, I think it was like hauling 3 people through. But like, yeah, they could have put the Pokemon on front of the boat, like, and tied them to a string, you know.
Well, my other issue is the prophecy.
Yeah,
it's pointless. There's no reason for
no purpose to it in the movie, except I read one thing that something about the prophecy, and it's like the winds and the waters will do something. That it has some sort of tie-in with why the Pokemon's tears healed Ash at the very end, but it was very convoluted.
Okay, so Miranda says, "Return of the winds of water. The ancient writings tell of the storm wiping out all but a few Pokemon." So it's like a Noah's Ark thing, you know. In their sorrow, the water of their tears somehow restored the lives lost in the storm, but there are no Pokemon tears today. Just water which no one can survive.
Yeah.
And then you have a bunch of 12-year-olds that are just like, you can't stop me.
You can't stop me.
I got all water type Pokemon. I'm an idiot who doesn't play the video games and knows you shouldn't have all the one type Pokemon.
Yeah, well, there's that, and I was like, dude, Misty is the daggum like gym leader for a water Pokemon. Like, why does she not have a Pokemon strong enough to surf on, essentially?
I don't know. I think she gets a Starmie at some point. Like, I think her Staryu evolves.
It does evolve. I remember that episode.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, she has a Staryu here. I mean, I don't know, man.
I just thought that was funny.
Massive too.
Dugong was massive. Okay, when they leave the harbor too, I had 2 things about that. One, I don't think Mewtwo knew that they were going to cancel the boat. Like, they were going to cancel the ferry. I am assuming that Mewtwo, in a very dark attempt, was going to be like, everybody come to this island. Those who survive will be not just those who brave the storm and come. It'll be like those who survive will have the strongest Pokemon. And I was like,
really shocked. I was really shocked. There were only 3 trainers there outside of Ash, Misty, and Brock. It threw me off because I thought there was a lot more than that. Like, thinking back to when I last watched it. But
there was a moment too when
did they all die? I don't know.
Well, you only see one other person attempt to leave, and there's in that scene when the guy I forget his name now hops on his Gyarados and starts swimming. There's a girl in the background that takes off on a Pharaoh. And it's like, and she's not on the island.
You sure it's not the Pidgeot? Because the dude rode the Pidgeot through the hurricane winds.
Go back and look at that one little scene. It's definitely a Pharaoh.
Wow.
And either there's theories that she turned around and went back, or she died in the storm.
She might have died. I think there might have been a lot more kids that died. And I love how the harbor master, Miranda, is just like, oh, yeah, these kids, they're just so driven. You can't stop them. They're Pokemon trainers. They're going to kill themselves at the storm.
Oh, man.
Do you think Mewtwo is disappointed when Ash shows up with a bunch of like first evolution Pokemon?
Well, he was the one that scouted them and sent them the invitation. So I think there was something to say about having that strong of unevolved starter Pokemon and like why he would want to clone them, you know?
Maybe so. I just was like, when I thought about this, when I was watching the movie, I was like, I bet Mewtwo's thinking, gosh dang it, this freaking noob. Like, you don't have anything fully evolved except for Charizard, you know? But
yeah. I think I think he probably really only did it for the Pikachu, you know? Same with Team Rocket, kind of.
Special Pikachu.
Special Pikachu. Well, Yellow Cheeks Pikachu.
Yellow Cheeks Pikachu. I think around this time we see My Lovely. Actually, we may have passed My Lovely at this point.
Okay.
Mew. Mew is My Lovely.
Mew was a runner-up for me.
It's so adorable, dude. It's like asleep in a lake in a little like air bubble, and then you see it playing on the windmill, and it's like trolling Team Rocket the entire movie. like, oh man, it's just so great. And you get the Pokemon card from the movie. There's nothing not to like about our little boy. Mew,
Yeah.
mew. I can't even do it. I'll try, but I can't even do it.
It was a solid choice character for Mew, and a really good way to make it really be the whole like juxtaposing character to Mewtwo. That his
Such
purpose
a
is just
sweet and
kind of to fly
innocent
around.
Pokemon. Yeah, just vibe out until it gets attached, and then it's like, all right, let's go. I got pink bubbles.
Yeah, he's jumping. Like, he takes the moment when Mewtwo's like throwing shadow balls at everybody, and was like, "Let's bounce on this bubble because it's fun."
Yeah, and let me reflect the shadow ball back at you, Mewtwo, and let's get going. I mean, he's great. I love Mew. I always have. When my last playthrough of Pokemon Yellow, there's a cheat you can do to get him in your game, and it's just like he's programmed into Pokemon Yellow. You just have to go and do like a certain do this and then that and turn here and talk to this Pokemon or this person or whatever.
It's like a very specific. Yeah, like very specific. You have to go about these things
to
exactly.
You're just like tapping into the data or whatever to get I think a Ditto or something turns into a Mew. I'm not really sure, but anyways, I did it last time I played, and it's just so fun to have a Mew on your team because you can learn like any move. It's just Mew's great.
Yeah,
definitely
Mew
my
is
lovely.
Great. Good lovely. I struggled with that. Then I was just like, what makes me smile more? Like Dragonite with the little man purse or Mew? I was like, it's got to be the Dragonite.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little jealous. I didn't even think about the Dragonite, but that's such a good choice.
Oh, man. So they get to the island now. We're on the island. Get all the intros to the other characters, which are just like kind of weirdly, they have this very long introduction and like, look at my Pokemon. And then the other trainers are hardly in the movie anymore after that scene. After the big like dinner intro scene, is that even in the final battle, those trainers are kind of nowhere to be seen.
It's interesting because you do have the Mewtwo battle because he comes down. He has this awesome spiral staircase that'll come into play a little bit later on. But he's coming down, makes a crazy entrance, which is weird because he's planning on killing all the humans anyways. I don't know why he's like even bothering with these guys. I think the point of it was to test how strong the clones are compared to their normal Pokemon counterparts. And so you have a little bit of like a back and forth where he chokes out the frat bro in the tank top, who sends his Gyarados, and then Mewtwo just demolishes Gyarados, and then Ash is like, I'll play into the like rules of Pokemon. I challenge you to a Pokemon battle, and like everything, all the chaos stops, and they go battle with just like Blastoise and Charizard and Venusaur.
Yeah, I thought it was so lame that Mewtwo, obviously he used his like psychic powers to recreate this big castle, right? But he has a Pokemon arena there, and I feel like that's so anti Mewtwo, and be like, I'm making my own way. I'm saying I'm done with this whole like humans own Pokemon. Like Pokemon are strong on their own. They don't need to be slaves. But then he has the whole like it's being like, it would be like, hey, like strong guys are strong, and you don't have to be a football player to be a strong guy. Football players are slaves to the NFL. And then being like, you want me to prove it? I built a football field in my backyard. Like, you know what? Like, dude, it's not.
That's
like
so funny.
You have to like defeat your whole point to prove your point, which is I thought was kind of funny.
Well, not only that, but he proves that his clones are stronger than their normal versions. I mean, all three of them get destroyed, and that's why he's like, all right, well, now I won, so I get to capture all your Pokemon. That sort of thing happens. But if we're just going to real fast forward toward the end of the movie, where he, for some reason, he goes, I will block all the Pokemon special abilities using the psychic powers. Then we shall see who triumphs. I'm like, Mewtwo, what are you doing, bud? Like, you've already proven that they can beat the other Pokemon if they have their special abilities. Now you're going to block the special abilities, and it's just going to be a slap battle. You're just going to have them all slap box or fight somehow physically. And it just, like, that's the only reason why the Pokemon all, like, faint or get tired at the same time. It's because they don't have their special abilities. Otherwise, the clones would have just wipe the floor with the normal Pokemon.
Yeah. That old scene reminded me of that scene in Step Brothers where they're fighting and they just keep fighting until they fall asleep in the yard.
Yes, very much
that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. I think the reason, if I had to guess why they did that, maybe it's like less chaotic for the animators. Or maybe it's just like a more gruesome feeling.
Yeah, like a fire, thunder, water battle with like a bunch of Pokemon at once. That
they could just animate a couple movements here, back and forth with like the Rhydons or whatever, or the not Ponytas, the Rapidashes. They don't have to animate like massive movements and moves or whatever. They can just focus on the forefront instead of the background. Maybe. I don't know. It seems like a pretty big flaw. If there was a Jake mistake of this episode,
making big pancakes,
I'm going to give it to Mewtwo for blocking the Pokemon special abilities for the final battle.
If I was going to go for the mistake, it is in this whole scene, but not even just for like Mewtwo blocking the powers. It's just the fact that like you mentioned, like this battle itself is pointless. We're on this whole existential high with Mewtwo about to discover his purpose. He's proved his purpose. Everything's on track pretty much. And this whole scene was just so that the animators could throw in an anti-violence like ad of being like, fighting nobody wins in the fight, and fighting is pointless. And again, they are Pokemon trainers. The whole point of them having Pokemon is to have the sport of fighting. And maybe that was the difference. It's like fighting for getting what you want is pointless because nobody wins. Or fighting for sport is cool. It just almost was so like they threw it in there because maybe there was like some parent groups that were like, Pokemon promotes violence and fighting. And they threw in 5 minutes of like, we're not about violence, but we're about sport fighting,
Certainly that scene was one of my like what happens in that scene where and this happens throughout the entire movie, every character just rehashes whatever the previous character says, whether it's with a question or they're just like, oh yeah, fighting's bad, fighting's like bad, and then Nurse Joy says something along the lines of like, Pokemon shouldn't fight, and then I love the comma, not like this.
Not like this.
It's okay if they fight normally for sport, where they're like killing each other. Yeah, but not like this. And Misty, this just proves that fighting is cruel. You're a gym leader of gym. That battle is Pokemon.
Which makes me believe that they somehow baked this into the movie like last minute. Like they were like, okay, we got to have another like something that drives a lesson and a deeper meaning home. So they were like, let's create this whole like violence is bad like thing. And because it was thrown, you could have stopped it after that battle in the first time when Mew and Mewtwo were fighting and pretty much had Ash block it there. I don't know. Either that or it was all this lead up just for Ash jumping in the way because he is trying to promote Pokemon not killing each other and that he just wants everybody to stop fighting.
Yeah, why can't we
maybe it was all the lead up for that,
I don't know. The Ash moment is a very special and yet very kind of lame moment. The older I get,
he tries to kill himself like 10 times in this movie.
But he's definitely taking chances.
He jumps off the top of the spiral staircase to catch Pikachu in midair, and I'm like, okay, like y'all are both gonna die but he goes into the water.
He goes into the clone machine too, and it's like, you don't know what that clone machine's about to do to you, dude. Like, what if it chops you up and gets your DNA or something? Throwing caution to the wind, just like Finn, constantly.
Yeah, it is very Finn, like first season Finn-esque. Like, let's just jump into the like situation in the battle here. Yeah. Oh, I did before we forget about the clone machine. I was watching it a second time today. And I was like, oh my gosh. So, how they had the little hand things that are like controlling inside the clone machine. Yeah. It looks like they're made out of bones. And I was like, my gosh, I think that Mewtwo took the bones of the dead scientists and made it into the clone machine. Yes. Oh my, I would love that kind of
that
like
island
dark
got
twist.
Exploded big time.
Oh, I don't know, man. Go back and watch it. It looks like straight up bones in there.
They look like bones. Yeah. I will say the scene where, I mean, man, as a kid, I know it made me cry at least once. At some point in this movie, I definitely cried as a kid. But the point where like Pikachu is running away from like they're all like Master Ball level Pokeballs. Those black balls that are chasing the Pokemon around and the main characters around. Those are incredible Pokeballs. But Pikachu is running up the spiral staircase and just like thunderbolting those balls to like knock them down, and then more come and so on and so forth.
Thunderbolt and balls over there.
What?
I said thunderbolt and balls.
Yeah, thunderbolt and balls. That is a like intense moment in this movie. That moment and the whole cloning scene, I really do think are kind of standout for the second half of the movie. It's like that, and then the Mew and Mewtwo battle. Otherwise, it's all kind of like elementary, really not that fascinating stuff. But there are a couple little moments, and I really love the Pikachu staircase scene because it is definitely heartfelt and sad to watch Pikachu struggle like that.
Yeah.
And then the whole cloning scene is very cool and very creepy, and it's good.
Yeah. I think, that it was that was the moments in the movie where Ash is proving that he loves Pikachu, and Mewtwo sees that and he's like, yeah, I'm sure you love your Pokemon. But it was at the moment where the very end when Pikachu cries over Ash that Mewtwo understands that it's not just like humans loving this thing. It's like the Pokemon loves the human back. And so you get to see a little bit of both sides of that there. But for sure, they did the cloning scene and the staircase scene so much more intensely than just like a slap battle,
Yeah. Well, even in the slap battle, like Pikachu's refusing the fight. Did you notice that?
Yeah. Pikachu's over there being like pacifist Pikachu.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, oh man, I do have to say, despite us ripping on the slap battle, did you notice that Meowth out here 1999 was just solved racism like by himself? When he's having the conversation, he's like, I have the quote. He goes like, "You're right. We do have a lot in common. The same earth, the same air, the same sky. Maybe if we started looking at what's the same instead of always looking what's different, well, who knows?" And I was like, dadgummit, Meowth just defeated racism in 1999, and we all just forgot for some reason.
He defeated racism. Oh, Ned. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, he had it.
We had all the answers we needed for a perfect society in Pokemon, the movie, Mewtwo Strikes Back, and we just all seemed to forget somehow because Mewtwo erased our memories, right?
Yeah. Now, did you cry when Pikachu was shocking Ash?
No, like, well, probably as a kid.
Yeah.
No, it at that point.
Okay. I was just saying, I had in my notes just to keep asking if you cried.
Keep asking if I cried.
Because
it's emotional.
The staircase and then that moment where Pikachu is just giving it his all to try and shock Ash back to life is just it's so good. It's so sad. And it makes you just be invested, even though for some reason 2 psychic attacks cause someone to be petrified or turn the stone. I don't really understand that, but it was a good moment, man.
Yeah, it was obviously the moment that is the reason we all go back and watch this movie again. Had it not been for that scene, it just wouldn't have stood up. That they made it that epic and that emotional and everything like that.
Well, Mewtwo's lesson is the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. It is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, I mean, the circumstances of your birth really matter in a lot of ways, unfortunately, but it doesn't define who you are and what you do with life. I agree with that part of it,
Yeah, I love the way the last line is delivered. I love that is the overarching theme, and they did bring it home finally. Now, I did start really trying to think about the whole Mewtwo case and his existential thinking. Is that he says he sees now that the circumstances of one's birth are irrelevant. Now, at the beginning of the movie, he was like, his big thing was, what is my purpose? And he's out there searching for his purpose. At the beginning of the movie, he does say, I think I understand that, like, I will find my own purpose and it's going to be to destroy the world. And I'm like, he already knew this lesson. He already had determined that the circumstances of his birth or his search for purpose was going to be decided by him. He just chose for it to be to kill everybody. And at the very end, it's kind of like he still could have been like, I'm still choosing my path. Like I already determined that the circumstances of my cloning are irrelevant. It's what I'm doing with my life that determines who I am, and I'm choosing to rule the world, you know?
Yeah.
So he kind of knew the lesson already, in my opinion.
I think so. Well, he even takes a moment and it's like when he's flying away and he says something along the lines of, well, clearly this 12-year-old knows, the purpose and knows the reason for life. And I hope I find what it is that you've taught me today for myself or something. It's like there's no real conclusion other than, maybe killing everybody isn't my purpose, and taking over with my clones isn't the reason for living. I just thought it was. I don't know.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's what they meant, is that he realizes that, like, just because I was born into what I consider to be crappier circumstances and, abused by scientists and abused by Giovanni, that I can turn and create a better life for myself despite my, bad circumstances.
Yeah.
But
which is a much better lesson. They should drive that home.
Yeah, like driving home that, like, even though I came from a troubled past, I still have a bright future. Yeah, I still have a bright future ahead of me. That would have been way more changing his existential way of thinking. Not it's continually just as existential, but just redirected anger.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the qualm of the whole, like, let's tie this up in a lesson. And I'm like, it didn't really answer his own lesson. Like, it didn't really. Mewtwo's still like an incomplete character. He's just not angry anymore.
Yeah. And he erases everybody's memory, so no one else got the lesson but himself in the end.
Well, here's the crazy thing, man. And because I was, talking about most powerful Pokemon, obviously Mewtwo also has some sort of grip on time and space. Because not only does he's like, it's better if you forget this, but sends them back to the past. And I was like, okay, we did not even touch the fact that he can go and do, I mean, like, how many times has he even theoretically done this?
I don't know. Yeah.
And had it not, how many times did he clone Pokemon over and over, and they invite people to his island, and then he was defeated, and then he just erased time back and tried it again, erased time back, tried it again, until his Pokemon were powerful enough to defeat everybody else.
And he didn't even let them know, like, why they were there or how they got there. Like, he rewinds time, puts them in a certain spot, and then he erases their memory back even further than that. Like, it's multiple levels of kind of ridiculous power.
Yeah. Again, I was like, man, okay, so that's a little scary that we have, and I'm sure there is other legendaries and other god Pokemon down the road that have, like, the power of time and the power of space. But the fact that this psychic Pokemon can obviously teleport people through time, I was like, okay, that's a little scary that there's a Pokemon out there in the world that can do that.
The psychic Pokemon in Gen 1, both in the anime and on, like, in the video game, are pretty ridiculous. I mean, for the video game, it's like your special attack and your special defense were all wrapped into one stat. It was just special stat, making a psychic like Alakazam or whatever, like, twice as strong as, he probably should have been, because his offense and defense are great. Now it's a glass cannon where he just has great special attack and no special defense. But then in the anime, like, think back to the psychic Pokemon or the psychics in the anime, where you have the gym leader who, I'm sorry, I wasn't planning on talking about this. The gym leader who basically has, like, dolls and is trying to play with Ash and friends as dolls and turns
Sabrina,
them into
right?
Sabrina, yes, turns them into, like, little miniatures for her playset. Like psychic abilities in Pokemon world are kind of ridiculous, and it is terrifying to think that a Pokemon like Mewtwo exists and can just kind of manipulate reality to his will.
Yeah, and that's what very, again, my last theoretically speaking. Sorry, Michael, for all the sound bits here. But
I hope he's not.
What if
not on all of them, please?
What if all of that never actually happened because Mewtwo was such a powerful psychic that he was playing out this scenario in people's minds and creating a fake
and then making them
altered reality. And it was all like everybody was there, and he like froze them all, like psychic Professor X froze them, got into all their heads, and played out a theoretical, like, what if I destroyed the world? Like, what if? And when it panned out and he learned a lesson after getting in their heads with his psychic power, he just decides to go away. And like, but that all wasn't actually real.
Maybe.
Because it makes me think that because one, it's because he's got this massive castle he obviously built. Like I said, he has everything. He's super overpowered. Like, so like, what if it was all like he was just doing it all in people's minds? I don't know, you know?
Yeah, maybe so. But I like to think that it all actually happened and what he says actually happened. Though if he has all these crazy powers, did he really ever need clones in the first place? I feel like he could probably do it on his own.
Well, he needed the clones for the whole Noah's Ark aspect. I'm going to create a better world. But
with clones, gotcha.
Yeah, should have had a lot more Pokemon than like 12.
Yeah. It's interesting because after everyone's erased or their memories are erased, they have no clue what's going on. They're just like randomly in this harbor. And they're like, all right, let's go get food or something. And then they go out and they see that the storm's gone. And then you see Mew. And then Ash has that moment where he's like, oh, I've seen a legendary before on the first day. You caught that, right?
Because he sees Ho-Oh flying on the first episode.
Have you looked into the Ho-Oh theory at all?
No, I haven't. Because I know Ho-Oh doesn't even appear till Gen 2.
Yeah, so they had already had, and I'm not going to go deep into this at all because it is a very long, very thought out theory, but essentially, like, the creators had already had planned Ho-Oh, and a lot of the Gen 2 Pokemon were created in Gen 1, and just like, they're like, oh, we'll wait to introduce them later, see how this goes. But Ho-Oh is in the first episode of the anime, and Ash sees him right before he goes and gets shot by Pikachu saves him from the, sparrows, I guess, are trying to attack him.
Pharaohs, yeah.
I think they're sparrows.
Sparrows, yeah.
Yeah, and Pikachu shocks, whatever. But essentially, there's a theory out there that the Pokedex entry for Ho-Oh is, if found, the Pokemon can grant any viewer eternal happiness. So the thought is why Ash is always the same age, no matter where he is in his journey, his Pokemon journey or whatever, is because his eternal happiness is to always be 10. And so maybe Pikachu shocked him into a coma or something like that. And so he's just in his mind forever living. It's dark and ridiculous. And there's probably like several iterations of this one theory. But I just thought it was really fascinating for them to call out, oh, there's Mew. Remember that one time I saw Ho-Oh and I'm still 10 years old and, I've been on this journey for forever. I thought that was kind of an interesting little call out.
Yeah, I thought it was a great call out just because they wanted to like scratch the Ultra fans' itch of like, hey, when are you going to make references to things that have already happened in the show? Like, besides just like seeing their Pokemon, and like little call outs like Brock being the ladies' man, and but that's a one way to end a movie that has a mega fan base with like something they're like, yes, I get that reference, yeah, I love it.
But shouldn't I know? I'm sorry, I'm getting stuck on Brock. Shouldn't a ladies' man like have any women interested in him?
No, that's why it's so
women.
funny.
Then yeah, I guess so.
It's because he's I say ladies' man because he likes ladies, not ladies' man because he's good with ladies.
Yeah. Well, Ned, I need to know, man, how many Nurse Joys out of 10 are you giving this movie?
I'm giving it for nostalgia. You get 3 Nurse Joys.
Only 3 out of 10?
No, I said for nostalgia's sake. Like that's alone worth 3 Nurse Joys.
Gotcha.
That's why the movie standalone on its own gets 4 Nurse Joys. So
it was 7.
Altogether is 7 because it's nostalgia. It's the first movie. You get your Pikachus. I don't like Gen 3 Pokemon and beyond. It just gets way too messy. So I like the simplicity. I like the nostalgic factor. It's a good like lesson learning thing. Mewtwo's such a badass character. Like, so that's why I'd say it gets a solid 7 Nurse Joys from me.
I've got it at a 7 as well. I gotta agree.
Nice.
It's a great movie, but at the same time, my lesson kind of is just some movies are better as background noise when you're playing a Pokemon board game, and maybe that's just what this movie needs to be for me. I will continue to watch this movie for the sake of nostalgia, probably once every year or once every other year for maybe the remainder of my life. I mean, who knows? Because it is such a pivotal moment for my childhood and for a lot of our childhoods. But I can't imagine like someone who doesn't like Pokemon getting into this movie and actually getting much out of it, unfortunately. But
yeah. I got enough out of it to where I think I'm going to go watch Pokemon 2000 because Lugia is one of my favorite characters.
It's a good movie too. I'm not going to lie. Both of them are about the same for me.
I want to watch Pokemon 2000 just to figure out if they improved it a little bit. You know, that Lugia is a way cooler legendary than Mewtwo, I think, for some.
Mewtwo?
Yeah, I mean, I like Mewtwo a lot, but like it's like the Superman theory to me that like Superman's a cool superhero, but it's kind of, I think Superman's kind of lame. It's just like, yeah, he's invincible and nobody can beat him. So like, it's not that fun, you know?
Well, here's a little factoid for you, and this could be a little bit off because I have not listened to this for a really long time, but I believe Lugia was created just for the movie. He wasn't a part of like the video game or planned to be a part of the video game. And the guy who did the cartoons in the first movie and the second movie, I believe, and maybe even the third movie, but he was just like, I need a really awesome character. And it was his favorite character was Lugia that he created for the film and ended up being, as we know, the silver to the gold, you know, for the second generation video games, one of the legendary Pokemon. But thinking of it from that standpoint, like it really, it's incredible. Lugia is one of the coolest designed Pokemons out there. And it is really neat that he just happened to be made for the second movie.
Yeah.
He wasn't even playing for the video game.
Which makes me think that the Pokemon 2000 is a better movie. Probably a lot more went into it in terms of them. Just this movie somewhat felt like an extension of the show that they were making, not as much of like let's make a really good movie. Let's get like really good plot points in there. Let's make a really good climax that doesn't have 4 themes all tied into one.
I like the second movie. I want you to watch it and let me know what you think because
we will. I don't know if we'll do a special on it, but we will watch it and discuss it ourselves.
I would love to if for whatever reason we decided to do another Pokemon special somewhere down the line, but we'll see.
I don't know, man. We'll take it home. Like you said, I think we talked about all my lesson. You said your lesson was that some movies are better background noise. And maybe on that same note, I'll be like, some movies are best in childhood. And there's little aspects of our childhood that, you know, need to remain sacred in that kind of sense. So the fact that we did a podcast on it, breaking down the flaws, breaking down the theoreticals, it doesn't ruin it at all. And I want that to be like, to live in infamy as a child, to be like, yes, Pokemon the movie, yeah.
It is without a doubt one of the cooler moments of Pokemon in my mind, you know, and it will forever be. Even if I'm hating on the movie in any way, you know, take it all with a grain of salt. I think I'm trying to hide how much of a Pokemon geek I am, and I do really love this movie. I just don't watch it that often. Well, maybe I do. I don't know, man.
You watch it
I'm contradicting
appropriately enough.
I watch it plenty for nostalgia's sake. But I don't think everyone's going to love it going back at it. But anyways, y'all, thanks for joining us for an extra long, extra ridiculous, extra unplanned and unorganized special. But
hey, I'm all about
unplanned
and unorganized. I love it.
Yeah. It's good. It's a lot harder to break down, you know, an hour, 70-minute movie or whatever than it is an 11-minute episode. But it's still such a fun conversation to have whenever we do.
If we had made this organized, it would have been like 3 hours long. If we had all of our points organized. Yeah.
You know, like we could do video essay format. Like me and Ned could read a script, you know, and take different takes or whatever, but that's just not us, and I'm not trying to do that.
I'd get bogged down with that.
Yeah. Yo, check us out on Instagram at Never Ending Adventure Podcast, TikTok at Never Ending Adventure Cast, Twitter at NEA_podcast. Email us at NEA.travelerslog@gmail.com. I didn't check that this week. I accidentally logged out of all my emails, and I need to figure out a way to get back into them all.
We're good. We're good. It's all good. But yes, thank you guys.
YouTube.
This has been, and YouTube. Yeah, YouTube's another great place if you just don't like pulling up Apple or Spotify for podcasts.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, this has been a fun one. I think this turned out to be a little less chaotic than I thought it might. So I'm really glad that I got to talk like everything that I had that was like, whoa, these are my main points and my deep thoughts and the fun little like Easter eggs I found. I think we got to really like talk about them all. So that's why I was excited.
I've got to know real fast. Who's your favorite Pokemon, Ned?
Favorite Pokemon of all time. I don't know. Machamp holds a pretty special place in my heart. I love Machamp.
Wow. Okay.
I have to really think about favorites at that point.
It feels very unique to me for some reason.
No, you know what? Take that back. It's Typhlosion.
Yeah. That's a good choice. I think that's a big fan favorite, honestly.
Yeah, I think I played the crap out of Ruby version and freaking I couldn't play the game with that. And was that not Ruby? That was
Silver or Gold.
Yes, that was Silver. Sorry, I'm getting my games swapped.
You said earlier that you hate Gen 3 and so forth.
Well, I played it
Ruby and Sapphire.
I played Ruby Sapphire, but like it didn't hit. It was a more fun game because it was well developed. But like I played Silver way more than enjoyed Silver.
But you like Typhlosion.
Yeah. What about you?
Man, I'm a sucker for water types, so Squirtle is up there. Certainly for me, and so is from the third generation, actually Swampert and Mudkip, the first evolution of that. But I think my favorite's Heracross, which is a second generation Pokemon also.
I don't get. I know you love it because that's like your Pokemon go to. Yeah. I just don't get that one.
He's just freaking awesome. I as a little kid. All right, dang it. Sorry, this is going a little bit longer, but I just want I can actually connect this with Pokemon. So the reason Pokemon was created was because the dude who made Pokemon as a little kid would collect bugs or something. And I may be off a little bit, but he would collect bugs on his playground or in his backyard or whatever. And it was a thrill for him, was like collecting these little bugs and creatures, animals or whatever. And then he would bring them with him or whatever. And as a game developer, he wanted to take that childhood wonder that is going out and capturing bugs and turn it into a video game. And that's how you get Pocket Monsters or Pokemon, something along those lines. And as a kid, I would be out on the playground for, I think it was second grade when I would do this, but I would go and capture beetles. And I just loved the way beetles look. And then I would let them go in my school for some reason. But I think that the feeling of capturing beetles and how cool beetles were, and then all of a sudden in Gen 2, you get this really cool blue, my favorite color, Hercules beetle Pokemon. I just really attached to it. So Heracross is and probably will always be my favorite Pokemon.
Okay, at least you have a backstory for it. That makes more sense, you know.
I don't know. It's better than my reason why I like the Cowboys, for sure. It's just the color and the logo.
It's just the color.
I'm more of a Falcons fan now. But anyways, all right, you guys, that's enough.
That's enough of us.
We'll see y'all next Tuesday for a really good Adventure Time episode.
Yeah,
we'll get back into season 2.
Wrapping up season 2 is going to be so much fun. It's all good stuff. So join us again when we get back to our regular scheduled programming.
Yep. Ned, Travelers, party forever.
Oh, love the guys.